Today we continue our studies on the seventh ray revealer of the New Age to give us a better understanding on the picture of the world's current state right now and why is there so much chaos and what's the point of it? Where are we moving towards? So if you haven't watched the previous videos, you may do so. And I will continue on this fourth part about that subject. At this time, the whole world is embroidered in the chaos and the turmoil incident upon the clashing of the forces of the sixth and the seven rays. So it's the transition, we move from the sixth to the seventh ray, and there are some clashing of those forces which is seen in the current world situation. As one ray passes out and another comes into manifestation, and their impact upon the earth and upon all the forms in all the kingdoms of nature has reached a point where the two influences are equalized, then a definite point of crisis is reached. This what has occurred today, and humanity is subject to two types of forms of energy is thrown off center, hence the intense difficulty and tension of the present world period. The cause of this is not only the impact of two types of energies beating up the forms of life with equal force, but also that the energy of humanity itself, which is a combination of the fourth and fifth rays, is swept into the conflict. To this must also be added the energy of the animal kingdom, for this governs the animal or the physical form of every human being. You have therefore a meeting of many conflicting forces, and the world of Aruncha is faced with a stupendous battle, one that is recalled and cyclic, but which will in the particular area prove a decisive and determining factor in the age-old conflict between material domination and spiritual control. If you bear in mind that the sixth ray works through and controls the solar plexus, being closely related to the astral plane, the sixth level of awareness, and the seventh ray controls the sacral center, and you will see why there is so much emotion, so much idealism, and so much desire mixed up in connection with the world conflict, and why also apart from the storms in the political arena, in the field, religious field, there are many difficulties. And I'm jumping to another point which is important to understand for us, and it states, one point I would like here to bring to your attention, and that it is the two great group of divine agents, the great white brotherhood and the lodge of materialistic forces, are both of them seeking to divert these energies into channels which will further the end for which they work and for which they were formed and exist. Therefore, I would like to ask you to remember that behind all the outer events are these two directing agencies. You have as a consequence, first, two groups of advanced minds, both groups equally illuminated by the light of the intellect, and both of them formulating clearly their objective, but differing in their direction and emphasis. One group, under the divine plan, works with the form aspect entirely, and in this group, the light of love and selflessness is absent. The other group is working entirely with the soul or the consciousness aspect, and in this group, the doctrine of the heart and the law of love control. So that's a very important part. There are two groups, the Great White Brotherhood and the Lodge of Materialistic Forces, both an intelligent mind, but one works with the absence of love, and another one is the doctrine of the heart and is under control of the law of love. So, isn't that what you see today? In this connection, the two groups are working in opposition, therefore upon the mental plane. Second, the plans which embody these two different ideals and objectives are next carried down on the astral plane, so our emotion, and thus in the world of desire. The lines of demarcation remain ever entirely clear as far as the workers in these two groups are concerned, but are not so clear where the ordinary human beings and the world disciple and initiate are concerned. There is much chaos on the plane of desire, and the world Aruna is today sitting in bewilderment between the two opposing forces or camps, recognizing his relationship both to form and to soul, and at the same time wondering where his duty lies. His point in evolution determines his problem. The two groups are working in opposition upon the plane of desire. The materialization of the plans of these two groups of illuminated minds proceed steadily under the differing law of their being, the law of form life and the law of spiritual living. In this initial stage, and whilst the battle is being fought out in the realms of desire, for that is where the major conflict is being waged, and all that is happening upon the physical plane is only a reflection of an inner conflict. The forces of these two groups, working with the energies of the 6 and the 7 rays, have brought about in the field of physical living a state of complete cataclysm. The economic situation and the religious hatred are the two major instruments. This is a subject upon which you would do well to ponder. Consequently, you have two groups, two objectives, two great formulated ideals, two streams of active energy, and two rays predominantly in conflict, thus producing the differentiating ideologies. The result of this dualism in the is the external chaos, the differentiation of the two group ideals into the many human experience, and the resultant ranging of the entire human family under many banners, which testify the various viewpoints in the field of thought, political, religious, economic, social, educational, and philosophical. The result of all this conflict is, I would tell you, definitively good, and it demonstrates the steady achievement of the Great White Lodge. This consciousness of humanity has been definitely expanded, and the whole world of man at this time is thinking. This is a totally new phenomenon and a fresh experience in the life of the human soul. The first result of all the turmoil has been to shift the focus of human attention on the mental plane and thereby onto the mental plane and thereby nearer to the source of light and love. It is right here and in connection with the eventful change of focus that the world disciple can shoulder responsibility and proceed to active work. When I here speak of disciple, I'm using the term in connection with all who aspire to true humanity, to brotherhood, and to the living expression of the higher spiritual values. I'm not using it all together in the technical sense, which involves the recognition and the relation to the hierarchy, to the grades of propination or accepted discipleship. Two these are included in my thoughts. I refer to all aspirants and to all who have any sense of true values and an urge to meet the world's need. To understand a little the problem involved and the different modes of work which characterize those who worked in the past under the influence of the sixth ray, those who are learning to work under the influence of the incoming seventh ray, it might be helpful if we compare very briefly the two systems of activity. I would ask you to remember that both systems and mode of work are equally right in their time and place, but that the modern disciple would be discharging the old methods and steadily learning to employ the new and more modern effective modes of work. This he must learn to optimistically and with assurance, knowing that the benefits and the experience gained under the sixth ray system of discipline is still his most precious possession, because it has been transmuted from method and mode into characteristic of established habits. It is in the new ways of working and the new forces and objective which the disciple in the present era has to master. He must do this relying upon the lessons learned in the past and must base this new structure of truth upon the foundation and the stabilized orientation which must not now be established. And there is a lot more to comprehend, but maybe you reflect again upon the teaching that there are those two opposite forces and influences. People or humanity has reached a certain aspect that they are now on the mental plane, and people are thinking they have illuminated minds, but there are two groups, one which works more on the form aspect and love is absent, and the other one which is governed more by spiritual values and form. Love is the governing law of them. that there is an inner battlefield which we see physically on planet Earth, which is preceded by the battle of those forces, different type of forces energetically, which can be seen in the chaos in the world. And just to know that it's also really working out on the astral plane, meaning on the plane of emotion, desires. So I hope this gives you an insight on that there are different influences of energy currently. There are two types of streams, and there is some battlefield. And sometimes to really investigate your own desire, where is it coming from? How can you build greater control of your emotional self so you can actually be able to work with your higher soul and are in control of the emotional plane of all the influences and the forces which may want to pull you in a certain direction, but to have your steady center, your spiritual values, and to reconnect to your own truth and the righteousness of your living, and may it be rooted in love so it can actually shift more into greater harmony, more beauty, more order. And with that, I hope this video gives you a greater picture of two opposing forces, and sometimes you also feel them within yourself, that sometimes depending on the influence, it hasn't anything to do with you, that something is not good, something is not good within you, but also remember and embracing that we are also on an effect of greater forces that flow through you, and it is in steady and continuously developing our mind and our control over our system, physically, mentally, emotionally, to be in greater control over those forces and not being only controlled by those external forces. But it also can give you the compassion to see people, if you can't understand a certain way of thinking and perspective, to see, okay, it's both of it exists, and it's just the path of human evolution. And as it said, it's good that there is so much chaos, because it shows the progress of our evolution as a whole, and we're going in the right direction. And with that, so much love and so much hope and inspiration for you. Take care and see you soon.